Hi everyone! As you can see, I'm not wearing makeup today, and I'm not going to be doing a makeup tutorial either. Today's video is going to be explaining some commonly used makeup terminology or words you might see in product descriptions, because I was just watching a video where some people who used to work at Sephora were talking a little bit about some of their experiences working in the stores and brought up the topic of consumers not always knowing the correct terminology. And I was like, oh yeah, it can be pretty confusing, especially if you don't have any knowledge or you just have surface level knowledge or casual knowledge of makeup. It can be a little difficult sometimes to use the correct terminology for what you're trying to find for your end goal. So I'm just going to be explaining a few basic and widely used terms and what they mean, what they represent. Starting off, I'm just going to describe some foundation words. So foundation, of course, is skin-colored base makeup that you put all over the face. And these descriptions can apply to concealers as well, concealers being spots, like basically the same as foundation, but formulated for more specific points on the face rather than just covering the whole thing. With foundations, you're generally gonna find one of three types. There is dewy / luminous / glowy, natural, and matte finishes. As a general sweep, there are like more in-depth kind of ones, but they're all sort of subsets of those three. So dewy, luminous, glowy, they all pretty much mean the same thing. It means it's going to give a very wet sort of look to your skin, an extreme shine to your skin. Oftentimes it'll look like you sprayed yourself with water or you like got out of a pool. Sometimes, depending on if it's a good one or not, it can just make you look oily. But it just generally means like a wet look. Natural finish means it's basically like the natural finish of skin tone. It's not super flat and dry looking, but it's not super shiny either. It's somewhere in the middle, like a lot of natural, healthy skin looks. So like how my face looks right now, right? It's not super glowing, but it's also not like flat. This is basically what natural finish is, at the very least, supposed to achieve, though there's no guarantee that it will. By the way, I have a new light bulb in my lamp because my light bulb died and it's less yellow. How do you guys think it looks? Think it looks nice? I think it looks okay. It might be washing me out a little, I don't know. Matte finish, and this is across the board for pretty much all makeup products. Matte means flat. Matte means devoid of any kind of shine, shimmer, glitter, sparkle, wetness, any of that. Matte means flat. It means that your skin is going to look like a Barbie doll. It means that when you touch your skin, it will feel like those paperback books where it's like a velvety touch. It's gonna like it's that kind of texture. Like, matte is going to mean that your face looks like this little porcelain doll here, where there's no shine coming off of it. So those are like, in terms of foundation, that's what that means. We're gonna move on to terms often used for lipsticks now. So you might hear the phrase matte liquid lipstick, often described as being a liquid form of lipstick that is very long-lasting and non-transferable. Sometimes this causes people who are new to makeup or unfamiliar with the intricate terms of makeup to come to the conclusion that matte means long-lasting. It does not. Just like with foundation, matte just means flat, devoid of shimmer, shine, sparkle, or any of that. It means a lipstick that is dry on your lips. It doesn't necessarily mean your lips will become dry, but usually. Not every matte lipstick is going to be long-lasting either. A lot of matte liquid lipsticks are specifically formulated to last an extremely long time on the lips, but you can also get regular lipsticks, the little twist-up kind that are matte, as in flat, no shimmer, no shine, and they're probably going to last the same amount of time as any other lipstick, really. They are not going to be transfer proof. They are not going to be the kind where you can kiss the back of your hand and nothing comes off, because the word matte, it just means a flat color. It doesn't have anything to do with longevity, and it doesn't really have anything to do with what type of lipstick it comes as. You can get it as a regular lipstick that's a twist up. You can get it as a liquid. Next we have satin finishes. This is something that you'll hear in terms of eyeshadow as well. Satin lipstick, satin eyeshadow, but they mean two different things when it comes to lipstick or eyeshadow. We're talking about specifically in terms of lipstick right now. A satin lipstick is going to be a lipstick that is a little bit shinier and probably a little bit more moisturizing on your lips than a matte lipstick is. A matte lipstick, in order to achieve its flat effect, is naturally going to be a drier product. So if you have dry lips, it's probably not going to be great for you. I have naturally dry lips. I like the look of matte lipstick products. I can wear them long enough to take a photo, and that's about it. Satin lipsticks are a good alternative. They're not super shiny like a lip gloss or anything, or a lip balm. They're just sort of a medium level of shininess, like if you licked your lips a little bit, They're just a little bit of moisture, a little bit of shine, but for the most part, they're just as impactful and opaque as a matte liquid lipstick or a matte bullet lipstick. Bullet lipstick meaning the twist-up kind. So yeah, satin is it's sort of like the natural finish of lipsticks. It's going to be not super shiny, but not super matte either. It's kind of an in-between. And then a glossy lip, that's going to be something like a lip gloss or a lip balm. You can get solid lip glosses. I generally just think of those as lip balms, to be honest, but sorry, I had to pause to do a big yawn. So if you're looking for a highly opaque, colorful, impactful, pigmented lip gloss, you might get confused. There are some people, I've heard people say oh, I'm looking for a glossy matte liquid lipstick. Usually what they mean is they're looking for a long-lasting lip gloss that has a lot of color to it. It's really hard to find a long-lasting lip gloss, okay? Especially if you're going to eat or talk a lot, or you're just somebody who, like me, rub your lips together a lot or things like that. But a colorful, very impactful lip gloss is not the same thing as a liquid lipstick. It's a lip gloss with a lot of pigment to it. Pigment meaning opacity, amount of color, how much the color is you can't see through the color. You put on a highly pigmented red shade, your lips are going to be the exact same shade of red as what's in the bottle. And you put on a lightly pigmented red lip gloss, and it's going to be a slight bit of red with your natural lip color coming through. Sheer, you might hear. A sheer wash of color. Sheer, of course, you've heard that word probably out in the world in general. Sheer, generally meaning just a small amount of some form of coverage over your natural skin tone or lip color or anything like that. And sheer just means not a lot of that. A lot of your natural will come through. So glossy lips, not like having a highly impactful color is not the same thing as asking for a liquid lipstick. So, and again, I'm sort of making these distinctions so that if you go into a Sephora or an Ulta or anything like that and you ask a salesperson for some help, you have the right terminology so you'll be able to quicker find what you're looking for. Yeah, I keep yawning, it's 3 a.m. So moving on to eyeshadow terminology, we are going to be going over again satin finish, matte finish, and then we've got shimmer, metallic, and I'm also going to touch on textured. So, satin finish of an eyeshadow is sort of like, you know, those like really old-fashioned luxury eyeshadows that you might find like if you have like a fancy grandma, you might find that she has like a Chanel eyeshadow palette with like 4 little eyeshadows, and they're all slightly shimmery but not like wham shiny. That's generally what a satin eyeshadow is considered to be. It'll have a very smooth texture when you go to touch it. It'll have a luminescence to it. It'll have like a slight bit of shine. It'll likely have, you know, like mica in it, mica being the thing that gives shimmer and shine. But it's not going to be like a full-on glittery, sparkly bam, you know? Like, it's going to be just a slight bit of a hint of shimmer to give it a little bit of dimension. It's not quite matte, not quite a shimmer. So that's generally what a satin eyeshadow is going to be. I think I do have an example of it, so give me 1 second. So in this little 9-pan eyeshadow palette here, we have a couple of shimmer shade, or of satin shades, not shimmers, satin shades. We have this one, and this one. Ignore the damage. This was damaged on transit. I got a replacement, it's fine. So, in this palette, we have our satins, our mattes, and then 2 broken shimmers. So let me show you this texture of the satin eyeshadows. I'm just gonna bring you right over here. So as you can see, they are not especially reflective. They are not shimmering, shining, splendid like Aladdin and Jasmine would say. But you might also notice that they are not exactly fully flat either. I've swatched them on my wrist. I'm just gonna the other. So there you can see the slight bit of glimmer to these eyeshadows, but they are also not straight up shimmering. They're not straight up glittery. There's just like a little bit of shine to them without having huge impact. Satin eyeshadows are nice because they are generally smoother to work with. A lot of matte eyeshadows these days can be very smooth, very buttery is a term you'll hear thrown around a lot. It just means that they are not like super dry and flaky. And I know that eyeshadow is a powder product. Don't you want it to be dry? Yes, you do. But it's sort of like having an especially dry piece of chicken. You know, it's like, oh, this is difficult to chew. It's a very dry piece of chicken and I'm having trouble chewing it. If your eyeshadow is too dry, then that means that you're going to have a difficult time working with it. You're going to have a difficult time blending it out. You're going to have a difficult time getting it to stay to your eye. So that's what people mean when they say that dry eyeshadow is not something you want. And buttery eyeshadow is. Buttery means that it goes on smoothly and it is easy to work with. While a lot of matte eyeshadows these days have very, very good formulas that do allow them to be nice and buttery and easy to work with, satin eyeshadows are generally going to be quite forgiving. They are going to be quite buttery and smooth and easy to work with. They have that little bit of dimension to them without having too much, so it's very good for if you want to just go with something like slightly out there, you know, like you don't want it fully just flat, but you don't want a ton of sparkle either. A satin eyeshadow is a great choice for that. They're also very good for just like, you know, you do one eyeshadow and you're good, because you can blend it out all over and you'll have a little bit of that shimmer effect on the crease, and you'll find that it's not like you've just smacked metal onto your eye like you might with a shimmery or a metallic shade. Matte, we've already covered this. It means flat, devoid of sparkle, shimmer, or dimension of any kind. So that's going to be something like this yellow. There's not even the slightest bit of shimmer in it. It just means these nice flat shades. Now, the next thing to discuss is the difference between a shimmer shade and a metallic shade. And you might think, is there one? Yes, there is. A shimmer shade is generally just going to be that, shimmery, kind of sparkly, a little bit of pearlescence and luminosity to it, whereas a metallic shade is literally meant to look metallic. A metallic shade is fully intended to give the appearance of like colored metal on your eye. And so it is going to be way more reflective than a normal shimmer shade. It is going to be more consistently reflective, whereas usually a shimmer shade will have some sort of matte base to it with shimmer added into that. A metallic shade, you're not really going to find that as much. So again, let me find a good example. Well, I've either learned that I don't actually own any metallic finish eyeshadows, or that there's not as much of a difference as I thought there was. The difference looks quite stark online, but it's entirely possible that in real life the difference is just not as noticeable. That is actually something that is true of a lot of makeup. You're going to see it look one way online and look completely different in real life, and that's because of distortion of cameras and lighting and things like that. Like, my skin doesn't look in real life like it does on camera right now. My skin looks a lot more porish, as in P-O-R-E. But I have a few shimmers that I have swatched on my hand right now, and I fully thought that these two were metallic finishes, but they look shockingly similar in terms of texture to these other ones that I did. So now I'm unsure of myself. But this is a shimmer, essentially. Even this is technically considered a sort of shimmery shade, though it might be considered more of a topper, quote unquote. Something that you would put over a different eyeshadow, or just lackluster. But these are your basic shimmer shades, right? They've got shimmer. This one has one of those matte bases with a different color shimmer that you can tell. This one's just straight up regular white shimmeriness. And the subject of textured, which I said I was going to touch on, essentially a textured eyeshadow is some kind of shimmer or metallic shade that has additional, like, chunkiness to it. That's the texture that's being talked about. It has large flecks of glitter. When you put your finger in it, it's less like it is powder covering your finger and more like it is flakes of shimmer covering your finger. More like literal, like slate flakes of the eyeshadow coming off on your finger. A textured eyeshadow is also going to appear textured on your eyelid. So if you have like bumps in your eyelid, then a especially textured eyeshadow is going to emphasize that. So that is also something that's important to be aware of. When somebody says it is a textured eyeshadow, that means that it is an eyeshadow that is not perfectly smooth, and thus it's not going to look perfectly smooth on your eye either. It can look sometimes crumply, rumply, wrinkly. It can really add a texture to your eyelid that was not there before. So, those are the eyeshadow terminologies, lipstick terminologies, and foundation terminologies. If you have any other makeup terms that you're kind of confused about, let me know. The other ones I can think of right now are like contour versus bronzer. Essentially, all you need to know is if a company labels a product a contour product, but it is warm toned, it is a warm brown, it has an oranginess or a yellowiness or a redness to it, that makes it very like, it looks like if you got a tan, it's not actually a contour product. The reason that companies will call these products, which are actually bronzers meant for bronzing the face, bronzer doesn't necessarily mean it is going to be metallic or shimmery. There are bronzers that are like that, but you can also find matte bronzers. In this case, bronze refers not to the metal, but like when somebody says, ooh, look at that bronzed Adonis, and they're just referring to somebody who has a nice tan. Bronzer products are meant to warm up certain parts of the face. People will put them up on their forehead, they'll put them in their cheek area, on their jawline, on the nose, things like that. It's meant to give imitation of a warmer or more tanned skin tone. A lot of companies will label these products as contour products because back when makeup YouTube was getting popular, contour products were not very widely available to the public. It was something that professional makeup artists knew a lot about, but the general at-home person couldn't really find them at, a drugstore or an Ulta or something like that. So people started using bronzer as a contour, what they believed was a contour, because the typical contour products, which I will go over in a moment, were not super widely available, and people were like, well, they're both brown powders, and they both go on these sections of the face, in like this area and stuff, so they're the same thing. They're not. The purpose of a contour product is to imitate shadow on the face. So a contour product is going to have a cool tone to it, a sort of gray, or for very deep skin tones, I see purple or bluish tones are often used to create that shadow effect for products meant for deep dark skin tones. But a contour product is going to have a cool tone to it that is to imitate shadow, to help define and give the impression of, I don't want to say gauntness exactly, but it is what a lot of people use it for, like give a gauntness to like cheekbone areas, or to make the nose look smaller, things like that. I don't use contour products very often, but I do have a little contour kit here. So as you can see, this one in particular, this is a bit warmer, but this in particular is a very cool brown. It is a very like ashy, sort of almost grayish brown tone. So that's going to imitate shadow a lot better. You can use just a straight up gray. I've used just straight up gray eyeshadow before. It gives it a harsher look and almost a Morticia Addams sort of effect, very gothic. So that's why a lot of them will have this sort of additional like tan or brown tone to them, because you don't necessarily want just like a gray line if you're going out as like everyday makeup in it. Word of warning, if you're looking into contour products, A lot of actual contour powders, when they're in real life, can look a little funny. They can look great in real life, but they don't necessarily look as flawless as they do on camera. Another good way, if you want to make your cheekbones look a little bit more pronounced, is with things like putting your blush in a specific place. Like instead of focusing your blush on the apple of your cheek, you can focus your blush sort of more on top of the cheekbone itself, and that'll emphasize it more. And you can also put a little bit of some sort of shimmery or glowy powder, usually referred to as a highlighter, also on the cheekbone. Just concentrate it a little bit more towards where light hits your face naturally. So you're going to want to, when you're looking at where to put your highlighter, go in front of a light or a window or something like that, and just take a look at, when you turn your head, where the light catches on your face. So like for me, it's right here. So this is where I would put highlighter in order to emphasize my cheekbone area and to give it an even more pronounced look. That's going to kind of help achieve the same effect as if you're using a contour, and it's going to look a little bit better in real life because contour is, like from the side, you can tell that it's a powder and not like an actual eye, like an actual shadow, you know? But when it's just blush and highlight, then you're just emphasizing what's already there instead of creating an illusion of something that's not. But yeah, if you have any other questions about any other makeup terms that you might be confused about, or things that you've heard that seem like they should be contradictory, if you have questions about things like, oh, I saw this product that says this and this, but it sounds like from what you said, it's contradictory, you can go ahead and ask, and I'll do my best to describe. I've seen things like foundations that are like, it's a luminous natural finish. And it's like, well, that seems contradictory. Usually it just means that it's like a glowy finish, a wet looking finish, but it's sheer coverage, for example. So it's going to let a lot of your natural skin shine through, but it's going to make it look wetter. So I've seen that kind of thing before. And I've also seen products where companies are just throwing in any kind of keyword they can so that it pops up no matter what you search on Google. Like foundations that are like, get ready for a dewy natural matte finish. That's not a thing. They're just trying to pop up in the search results no matter what you're looking for. So be cautious about that kind of thing, because like with any kind of industry, corporations like to trick and they like to lie. So yeah. Anyways, I hope that this was helpful to some of you, and I'm totally happy to provide any kind of clarification in the comments, and I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day or evening, whichever it may be. Bye!